This is United States ship Enterprise CVAN-65, first of its type, first nuclear aircraft carrier, commissioned in 1958. The fifth ship to carry that name for the United States. These pictures were taken between July of 1971 and January 1972 off the coast of North Vietnam in the Tonkin Gulf. I was aboard as part of CAG-14, that's Carrier Air Wing 14, attached to VA-27, TAC Squadron 27. I was one squadron of the 7 aboard. There were 2 fighter, 3 attack, 1 Vigi, which is photo recon, 1 rescue, and 1 tanker squadron, as well as numerous deaths. The airplane that was just launched is an A-7, which I flew from VA-27. This is an aircraft carrier escort turning back into the wind. I stole a ride in one of the Angels, which orbits on the starboard side of the ship during launch and recovery operations in case of accident and or man overboard. Enterprise was in the 90,000 ton class, 1,087 foot in length, and 286 foot in width. This is the catapult officer. He controls launches of all aircraft. This is the forward cat officer, then there's a waist cat officer. 4 catapults could launch 3 to 4 airplanes per minute, up to about 30 to 35 airplanes per launch. Normally we would launch 7 launches per day. Flight ops would last 12 to 14 hours. Tried to go 2-hour cycles, but flight times ran between 120 to 140 minutes in there somewhere. This is a VA-27 airplane, and I believe Griff was the pilot. He's loaded for armament for a strike over North Vietnam and or Laos, whichever the case would have been. This is an F-4 aircraft launched off the number 3 catapult. You can see when he comes out of burner, engines turn red. This is a Vigilante airplane, photo recon, very tough airplane to fly. Only very seasoned, able aviators were assigned to these squadrons. We lost 2 people in a Vigi one night, both very experienced aviators. This is the Vigi that's on. Something's wrong with the launch. Suspend the launch. Catapult officer is calling for shuttle back. As soon as it goes back, he'll throttle back the airplane. Stand in front of it and throttle back. As soon as they hook you up, you put the engine to 100%. There's a throttle block that you have to grab a hold of. Catapult launch is 20 Gs. And you can't even straight arm the throttle and hold it up. So there's a T-handle that's a solid handle, and you just squeeze the throttle and the T-handle together to hold position. Don't grab the stick. You put your elbow in your groin. Wait till the stick comes back. And as soon as it does and the catapult thrust of the launch is over, you start flying. This particular day I was a spare, ready to go with an airplane that if one of them went down, didn't go, so I taxied back around, parked on the ready line, and get an hour or 2 off and get to go again. This particular cat's a number 1 catapult, starboard side forward, about 300 feet, give you about 170-75 knots of end speed depending on your weight of your airplane. A7 went between 38,000 and 41,500. Rotation is about 15 to 20 degrees nose up. As soon as you establish flying speed and control of the airplane, forward cats make a starboard turn to clear the ship. Waist cats make a port turn to clear the ship. You fly out to 10 miles, under 150 feet, and then you go to your rendezvous bearing. Each squadron had a different bearing for rendezvous after launch, where you would group and head in for your strike. This is the number 4 catapult, waste cat, in the landing area. One of the nicer cats to get on and off of board ship. Except an A7 with a nose wheel behind you, you kind of had to go out over the water to turn in. That's my lead airplane. I just caught him. This is the coast of South Vietnam, right below the DMZ. A piece of steel that just went down is called a JBD, jet blast deflector. It is used to allow an airplane to run up to full power without cleaning the deck off behind you. You can see the shuttle just came back. It's a nose-toe type launch system on an A7. You can see some rubber marks down each side of the deck there. You can bet that didn't slow that guy up any, except he got bald spot on his tires. Maybe he didn't want to go. All these pictures were shot with home movie film, Super 8, and then in about 84 put on videotape. This is January 1990 in adding sound. This is basically looking into Laos from the coast. You'd be handed over to an air controller. It was called Hillsborough during the day, Moonbeam at night. They gave you primary target information, assigned you to a FAC. The tougher targets were pre-assigned, and only Hillsborough would divert you. These areas are the passes. This is looking from Laos into North Vietnam. That's Ban Karat Pass. This is the Chapon H, where one of the invasions went into Laos. It was a debacle, of course. This is a karst area on the way up to Magia Pass. Vertical volcanic rifts, very pretty and beautiful country. This is a tributary to the Mekong River. This is Magia Pass. This strike is west of Magia Pass on a main artery road. Something you shouldn't do, and it's dive through a hole in the clouds, which I'm just about to do because they know where you're going to come to a target area. Airplane is inverted, nose is coming down. Target is in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. It's a bridge on a road assembly around a mountain. Bombs away, and you jink away. Right, left, vary your altitude and speed and rate of climb. This is a FAC airplane marking a target, center screen. There's a smoke, and he'll tell you where to bomb from that area. There's the first bomb on the ground. There's another airplane in the dive that's with this strike. FACs would brief you on the run-in and escape angles, near safe areas, in case you were hit. We'd make multiple runs on these safer targets, and 3 or 4 airplanes making multiple runs from the same angle was not very comfortable because it'd give them time to organize their fire, and it became more and more dangerous as the longer we were there, of course. A lot of blue sky. This time of year was in late fall, and they had the northeast monsoon, so the weather in the Gulf of Tonkin was very bad. Lots of instrument work, and bombing areas and the strike areas very nice. This is an A6. We got some trucks on fire early morning, and we're being shot at pretty regularly, and it was a tank, and we couldn't make a dent in him, so we went and got an A6 with a rock eye to strike him, and it worked. He stopped it. This is in the Ban-Karai Pass area. And I'm using 20mm cannon. You can see a streak of light protruding from the front of the airplane in that pass. Carried an M61 gun which shot 5,000 rounds in about 20 seconds. Very fine gun. It was a Gatling gun. Very accurate. But if you could get close enough to shoot at somebody, he could sure shoot back. These pictures are taken in the Bolamans Plateau area, southern Laos. Also a very productive, beautiful place. This particular day, an NVA regiment was operating in the area and were overrunning an outpost that the Laotian people had, and I supported from South Vietnam, I assume. I'm not sure of that. But these are multiple runs on the same target against troops, and you can see where the smoke is coming from. That's where the troops are, and both right and left of that target area are friendlies. And we made multiple runs. I think about 6 or 7 runs each on this target. Lots of ground fire this day. That's invisible almost from an airplane, and else you can see the muzzle flashes, which look very much like sitting in a football stadium and having somebody take your picture from the other side with a flash. If you're looking down the muzzle, you can see it, otherwise you can't. There was a bomb that just went off in the target area. A-7 was a very nice airplane to fly. Good roll rates. We're circling around the target for the correct running angle. And as you'll see in this photo, the airplane has a very nice roll rate. It becomes inverted there, nose down to about 60-degree dive, roll out, set up on the target, follow your computer-generated signals, and release and recover. A-7, very accurate airplane. Could drop bombs within a 50 CEP, which means circular error probability would put half your bombs within 50 foot of what you were aiming at. With 500-pound bombs, that's close enough. There's my wingman strafing that target. These light clouds below us, returning one day, are flak from a 22mm quad that was a favorite gun out in the Laotian area. Not too many 37s or 57s or 88mm out there. They were closer to the passes and in North Vietnam. Very few missiles. Saw missiles at a distance in the air. These are landing sequences back at the ship. This one I'll get waved off, and you watch the mirror, and it's on the port side. It's flashing now. There's an airplane in the landing area, so I was waved off. The Fresnel lens is a gyro-stabilized glide slope, commonly called a meatball. It provides glide slope information. Aircraft carrier, once you have visual contact day or night of the ship, and you can establish on the ball its line-up meatball airspeed. You have a visual cue to airspeed. It's a very tough maneuver to learn. Daytime became fun. Nighttime was tough. But it's one of the hardest and most demanding things I've ever done with an airplane. This particular day when I got waved off, they broke a flight of 4 in front of me, so I wasted a whole roll of film steaming up country. This is coming into the break. They just had one sequence, no radio contact with the ship. They give you a Charlie 5, and the first airplane was at the ramp in 5 minutes, and every 35 seconds thereafter was the goal. This is the only sequence I have of a trap landing. With an angled deck, the ship always moves to your right. You go over the wake. Enterprise had a big burble, but you can see the meatball on the mirror right there. You had to carry a little bit of a high ball. Got in close behind the burble, it put you right down on the deck, stopped you at 150 feet. As soon as you arrested, broke free of the wire, folded the wings, lights off, flaps up, hook up to get out, taxi over, point your nose out over the water where they would pin the gun, pin the missiles, safe any hung ordnance you had before you taxied forward to parking. I didn't get any sound sequences of flight deck ops, but it's very violent world up there, very dangerous. As soon as I was tied down, I got right off that flight deck and went below decks. I lived about right under where I'm taxiing now on the 03 level. Enterprise was narrow bow. You had to taxi up forward and back towards aft of the ship to get a line towed out, whereas most big deck carriers you can herringbone without turning around on the bow. The sequence also I get waved off in close, but you can see how the ship moves to the right and how close in behind that island you become. Enterprise was a special ship to land on because of the real square structure of the island. It created much more burble than any other carrier that I've been associated with. And after you got used to that, you would probably bolt her on most other carriers until you adjusted for that. This is an F4 in a landing sequence. As soon as he touches down, you can see him pick up that wire, stop him, and he'll pick up his hook right there, which is it takes some timing to spit that wire. You see his wings coming up, his flaps are up, lights are off. The next airplane is right behind you. This is an A-7. You can also see in the right hand corner where some airplanes were coming into the break, running overhead, counterclockwise 360 pattern, daytime. A-7 picks up a wire, stops it, spits it, and out. And this next airplane is too close to him. He didn't clear the rain line and waved him off. We tried to work as close as we can so the ship could stay in the wind the least amount of time. It's a flight of A-7s, breaking upwind. You can see the airplane about to land and the airplane in front of him just clearing, wings coming up. OK signal to the LSOs aft. How steady, even, touchdown, stop, and clear. Stan March, who's now Admiral of the Navy, he made it. And I'm sitting here tonight, thinking about going flying at night. Not very palatable that night. See some more landing sequences. F4, A-7. See the next airplane coming in. How close interval they use. Some F4s breaking over the bow, which is busy. This is my roommate, Hugh Lacey, head LSO, and my roommate Tom White. A fellow by the name of Thigpen is on the phone with a pickle in his hand. Hugh's in charge, and these other three are under training as landing safety officers, LSO for short. Enterprise was large enough to park airplanes on both sides of the landing area, which looked wide enough when you were standing there, but when you're landing, it looked kind of like landing in a crowd. They talk to you as you approach, ask you for power. They can cue you both visibly, and verbally. They have power lights, wave-off lights on the mirror, and also talk to you on the radio. There's exterior lights on the airplane that give them a cue to your speed. Also, they have a very well-trained eye. They've watched thousands upon thousands of airplanes come aboard a ship. They've saved a lot of pilots. They get tired and decide they're going to get aboard at all costs. VA-27 waved off early. And I wish I'd had some cassette type sound of these. It's a Hummer, which is an early warning squadron. Keep track of airplanes and ships within 600 miles of the task group. Communicated with data link. It's an F4, Pukin Dogs. It's an A7 tanker, which is late for the recovery. He's the last airplane, so he's breaks over the bow and he's in a big hurry. We did some refueling, which you can see refueling tanks on these for the fighters. I believe Dan March was the pilot of this airplane. He's a kind of a cranky lieutenant commander, and he's thinking about what grade to give him. Every landing was graded. Didn't maintain a good grade average, they'd send you to the beach. This is an A6, very fine airplane. The wingtips that are split are the speed brakes on an A6. The background of the LSOs here is an F4. This is a bolter I took from the Angel. I guess that one was Flight of 3 from my squadron. This one is a bolter. He gets in close, pulls his nose up just a shade over the wires, and on he goes. Good shot of the Enterprise from a distance. F4 coming aboard. These pictures are taken from the crow's nest, or Vulture's Row as it's called. People are getting ready to launch. As soon as the launch is well underway and they can put all the airplanes up on the forward catapults, they'll start recovering airplanes during the launch sequence. I think the ship would have to stay in the wind about 20 minutes on a good day to recover a strike. These home movies where the quality is not that good and the colors have faded some. That brake was on fire on that airplane. He stepped on it. You can rest assured that the air boss in the tower was talking to him about that. Flight director is in a hurry. He's trying to get his hook up so he can get that other airplane on board, but he's not going to make it. That's a Ghost Rider squadron. November Kilo was the CAG. Tail letters. All airplanes in CAG 14 carried that tail designation. The rest of these photos were taken at various times and not normally in sequence. I had way more film than I used in this. I gave every other roll to my plane captain who owned the camera. One camera I used, which is this one, didn't have an auto light. This is Steve. This is my plane captain named Levitt. It's a good shot of the JBD up during launch. And an airplane that is right behind him to taxi across when he is launched. An airplane off the waist cats. Forward cat's right behind him. JBD down and he taxis forward. These were shot with a camera that didn't have an automatic aperture, and the rest of the film is just here and there. Not necessarily in the Gulf of Tonkin. My plane captain Levitt had this camera and it was automatic aperture, shot it at about 60 millimeters. I gave him every other roll, which certainly was a mistake. He could have obtained much better footage and more of it if we'd have held together and developed it all and then split the film once it was made. It's a Pukin Dog Squadron. VA-27, our sister squadron. VA-27, my squadron. No weapons on these airplanes, so this is apparently off the coast of California somewhere prior to deployment. There's an evening recovery. Daytime was pretty comfortable around the ship. Nighttime, never did get used to it. I think I have one sequence in here of a night catapult launch, and there's one light out there on the end of the ship you can see, and when it goes by, it's pretty black. Talking it over before recovery. Plane in the air, little hassling. Going to overshoot this guy, level the wings, go in the vertical position. It's called a high yo-yo. Roll over and come right back after him. Catapult launches on the number 2 catapult. Looks like it's getting an evening. These are all bits and pieces. I'm not sure where they're all shot. This is bombing, so it's in North Vietnam or Laos somewhere. Quality of film was very poor. Jinking off target. It's an A7 with a Vigi. Number 1 catapult launch. Picture of an aircraft carrier from straight overhead. Gives you appreciation for how square the deck actually is, except for the bow area. Cockpit of an A7. The HUD area, which is a heads-up display. Another shot of Enterprise from overhead. This is a night catapult launch. You'll see one airplane go by right there in burner, and he's gone. And I'll be next. I'm right next to him. Be on his left. I'm on the number 4 catapult aft. in the waist area. That light will just go by and it's black. And you actually can't see any more than that, other than that light has a little more color to it. That's about all the film that's worth commenting on, I think.